Right.
Hello and welcome to Eldritch Extras. Hello, Mike. How are you?
Hello, Paul. I'm fine, thanks. How are you?
Yeah, all good, all good. Coming up towards Christmas.
Christmas 2023. That's
Yes,
right.
indeed. Yes, indeed.
That
So,
means, oh, go on.
I was going to say for listeners, this is the extra show that we do alongside our stories, and we're coming up to the final story.
We are just, I think, one more to go, and then
Yep.
maybe one more extras, and then that'll be the end of season one. But well, more on that, I guess, in the next extras, I guess.
Well, indeed. Yes, yes.
But this time of year can only mean one thing that Dragon Meet has happened.
Yeah, we were at Dragon Meet a couple of weeks back down in London, the one-day role-playing games convention. What did you reckon, Mike? Did you have a good time?
Yeah, I had a good time. There seemed to be it seemed numbers wise pretty much back to normal, kind of, post the COVID, years, as it were. Um, the calcium stand was pretty busy all day. I know we had a lot of sort of people come by, and there was Ben Aronovich was on the stand for quite a lot of time signing copies of Rivers of London. So that was very cool. But yeah, no, it was good. It was we'd moved, haven't we? We'd moved our booth. It'd been moved up to the upper hall.
Mm,
I don't know if we've been promoted or something, but we were in that kind of big space upstairs. And so and that seemed a lot fuller this year as well in terms of more stalls and so on. So
yeah.
with that, and then the downstairs kind of trade hall, it seemed pretty big in terms of the number of booths and people with their games and gaming accessories and so forth. It was yeah, there's a lot to see, I think. Yeah.
And it didn't seem to have that crush this year either of people. On some previous years, particularly the trade hall has been a real sort of crush of people. I think it used to all be sort of crammed into one room like a few years ago. And now with it being spread out, I think it's like you said, it was back to the same number of people, but it was a more, at least
Yeah.
from my point of view, it seemed a bit more relaxed, a bit less
Yeah,
uh,
no, absolutely.
of
Yeah, no,
of a
it
crush.
felt good. Yeah, no, it felt there was a lot of people there, but as you say, spread out and not really causing any issues really. Um, yeah, there was a lot of interesting stuff there. There's always a lot of kind of smaller press, kind of indie publishers as well with their stuff, and often some interesting bits and pieces you don't see everywhere. And yeah, I remember I bought some cat tea, some tea
Yeah.
that's got you can drink, but also your cat can drink apparently. So I haven't tried it yet, but
I
be
know. It
interesting.
was like, is this for cats? Is it not made from cat? It's cat tea, but what does that mean? So yeah, tea you can share with your cat. I don't know, it's a weird idea. I bought yeah, but
Yes.
I mean, I my cat ends up drinking my tea anyway. But once my cat has drunk some of it, I stop drinking it. I'll just
Yes,
make
sure.
that
I don't
clear.
think you're supposed to be sharing the
No,
cup, I don't think.
not
No.
literally share
Yeah,
it, but
yeah.
she will stick her head in the cup and like yeah, yeah. You have to watch
Yeah.
any cool drinks. You have to watch.
But it was interesting because obviously on the day of Dragon Meet there was a train strike, and which didn't seem to affect things. So there was a lot of people there, so it didn't seem to adversely affect things. Although you had a bit of an adventure getting home, from what I
Oh,
understand.
yeah. Somehow I booked a bus, and my first bus was heading towards Penzance. And I thought, what? That's the wrong direction. So I had to change buses at Heathrow. I'd somehow booked a bus that went via Heathrow, which is like on the outskirts of London. So it was like I don't know. And then when I got there, it's like an hour and no bus, no bus to get on to, and it was cold, and it took about 6 hours to get home. It was a drag, but what can you do?
Well,
Well,
yes.
what you can do is
Sure.
not book a bus again on a Sunday.
No,
That
sure,
was that
sure.
wasn't good.
No, no.
And what else you been up to? You been watching any good films that you can
Well, I
recommend?
watched an interesting film the other night called I'd never heard of it before, called Island Zero, which was on streaming, and I think it's a about 2018 film. And let me tell you the kind of setup for the film. It's a fishing community on a
Oh,
remote Maine island, as in Maine, US, finds itself suddenly cut off from the rest of the world after the ferry stops coming.
oh,
When people start to vanish, terrified survivors realize that someone or something is hunting them.
deep ones.
So it sounds pretty cool. And I quite enjoyed it. It's a low budget, and it's got some faults, but ultimately that is exactly what happens in the film. You have this bunch of people who are they've all got some of them are going to get back to the mainland, and but the ferry just never turns up, and then weird things start happening, and it very quickly happens that there's a kind of a marine biologist on the island who's been observing the
Of course.
declining in the fish, whose partner disappeared like 4 years ago, and she was also a biologist, and she had a theory that she was kind of conducting research on when she disappeared about a unknown apex predator that lives in the ocean that is yet to be discovered, that is the cause of a lot of this kind of decline in fishing and so forth. And do you know what? You know what?
What?
There is
There
an
is.
apex
Oh
undiscovered
my God.
apex
I can't
predator,
believe it.
and it's
It's
and
us?
they're not the deep ones, but it's pretty close. They don't look like traditional deep ones, but it's pretty close in terms of a some sort of intelligent society of marine things.
Oh.
But of course, clearly the writer had been maybe watching Aliens, because
Mm.
there's a writer on the island who has been writing this book, and now he's got to get back to the mainland. Um, and then somebody gets a peek at his laptop, and it's actually not a book. He's been writing a report on Island Zero, and no, he's from the government, and they know all about these monsters.
Oh, of course they
And
do.
of course, they
Wh-
want to kind of get the monsters on side, and have an advantage with the military, kind of all the usual kind of thing like that.
Yeah.
And that's all tossed in the mix. But yeah, despite some many faults, I did enjoy it.
It sounds right up your street, I have to say.
It's a lot of fun. It's not very silly at times, but yeah, it's an interesting one that just jumped out from nowhere. It's like, oh, this sounds fun. So yeah.
Mm.
What about you? What have you been doing?
I've been watching, well, I finished watching 11/22/63. Did I talk about this on the show already?
I'm not sure. I don't know. I think
I
you
hope
might have
not.
mentioned you started watching it. I'm not sure. That's
Yeah,
the
it's
one
the one where,
about JFK, yeah?
yeah. So basically, long story short, there's a at the back of a diner for no good reason. There's in the closet or the larder at the back of the diner. You walk through, and bingo, you're back in 1960. But if you come back, however long you spend there, when you come back, only a couple of seconds have passed. So you can stay there 5 minutes or 5 years, and when you come back, only it will still be like just a few seconds have passed. But obviously you'll be much older because if you spent 5 years there, you're suddenly 5 years older.
Right.
And this stars James Franco as the main dude, and he goes back and he's been tasked with the mission of saving JFK. But obviously, that's like when he goes back, that's 1960. So he's got to wait 3 years before the assassination takes place. So that means he's got lots of time to get into trouble, basically. And he's got the little magic book, like in Back to the Future. They get the sports
Oh yeah,
almanac.
yeah,
But so basically, he's got all these. He's got this little like exercise book that the previous guy has written down all the sports results from the early 1960s, so he can go and place bets. But I don't know if like betting was illegal then, if gambling was illegal, in that part of America. But basically he has to go, to dodgy places to make the bets.
Right.
And if you want to make a lot of money and you're going in and saying, oh, I reckon it'll be, Frankie Turbott's going to go down in the sixth round. I'm going to put $1,000 on it. Well, they're going to look askance at you when you come back and want 50 grand or whatever.
Right.
So, that makes it. It's not as straight. I guess that's nice. It's not as straightforward.
That
You
kind of
think having
brings a
those
bit of
results
tension and
is
threat to
key
it.
to being a millionaire, but it's not as straightforward as that. And then he starts surveilling your man. What's the assassin's name?
Oh,
Lee Harvey Oswald.
yeah.
So he starts spying on him, and like keeping a record of everything he does and watching where he goes. And and I won't spoil the end, but it's pretty good. There's one or two. There's only about 6 episodes, 8 episodes. It is. So it's not a long series, and it's like that's it. There won't be a season 2. Well, I don't think it wraps up.
Right.
And I mean, there's 1 or 2 episodes in there that I sort of thought were a bit badly done. That were kind of like side quests almost to the main plot, but the main chunk of it I thought was really good, and the time travel stuff was interesting, and the repercussions of that were well. It was well worth watch. But it then spurred me on to then I was like on a JFK quick trip, because also like the TV show is called 11/22/63, which is constantly confuses me because it's a bunch of numbers, and it's we would say 22/11/63 for the date. The Americans have it the other way around. But of course that was exactly 60 years ago.
Right.
Yeah, 60 years ago. It was the 60th anniversary of Kennedy's assassination just last month. So I went and watched JFK again, the Oliver Stone film.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
Which, when did that come out? I just looked it up. 1991. So that's like,
yeah, it's a while now.
Christ, what's that? That's 32 years
30
old
years
now.
That's, so. Yeah.
That's halfway back to when the assassination happened. And, oh man, I'd forgotten how many good people, how many people are in that. And Kevin Costner in the lead, Gary Oldman, Tommy Lee Jones as this kind of very suspect dude, Clay Shaw, Donald Sutherland, John Candy was in it.
Yeah.
Sadly, no longer with us. That highly entertaining. And but it really sort of delves into the whole conspiracy thing. And it's, whenever we say conspiracy now, conspiracies kind of get a bad rap now, because there's something that nobody wants to be associated with because they're so, I don't know.
Yeah.
But it kind of was, or at least it's I think quite a credible conspiracy. The way it's portrayed and all the stuff that sort of went on. Obviously, we can't get into all that now. It's like there's a million books on it, and
that's a whole podcast on its own, isn't it? The whole JFK thing. So I'm sure there is. Sure there are.
One bit in the film, I think it's Kevin Costner, the main sort of prosecutor, or sort of prosecutor, is that the right word? Anyway, the main kind of guy pressing it in court. I guess he's a prosecutor of Clay Shaw. And he says at one point how nobody believes the conspiracy that it was a up job, that it was the CIA or whatever were involved, and that Lee Harvey Oswald didn't act alone. And people dismiss that. But he sort of says, well, what if it had happened in the USSR, in Russia at the time, when the Cold War was on? If some political opponent, well, not political opponent, if the president had been shot, and if he was clearly out of favor with a big faction of the establishment, as JFK was, and then we're told, oh, the president's been shot. He wasn't very well protected at the time. He was very vulnerable, and it was just some lone dissident that shot him. Oh, and then the lone dissident himself was gunned down within 24 hours. We'd all say, oh yeah, sure, that sounds like a put-up job. That sounds like that was probably, the KGB or whatever that did that kill. Um, and if we turn that around, somehow it makes it sound a lot more credible that it was, a
Yeah,
conspiracy.
yeah. No,
Um,
it's obviously a fascinating subject, isn't it? Yeah. No, I'll have to give that one a go, I guess. Yeah, yeah,
yeah, yeah. Don't watch the I can't remember what it's called. There's a whole load on Amazon Prime, a whole load of documentaries about it.
sure.
The new one come out this year, obviously, because with the 60th anniversary, I thought, oh, I'll give that a watch. That'll give a nice overview. And it's new, it's not 30 years old. Maybe they got new things to say. They have got new things to say. Apparently, Kennedy, he had a lookalike in the boot of the car, dead, and then he he puts his hand up to his forehead and puts a squib like they use in movies onto his forehead, which explodes in the car when apparently
Yeah,
he's assassinated, and the limousine shoots off under the bridge. And at that point, Kennedy, because he's not hurt, he's just had this fake thing
yeah,
go off on his forehead. He crawls through the back of the limousine because there's a little tunnel to the boot that they've made. He crawls through, drags the dead guy that looks apparently just like him into the car, sits him up, and then he hides in the trunk of the car, in the boot of the car. And when they get to the hospital, they get him out, and they can't do an autopsy. The FBI, security take the body back to Washington. They won't let the locals do an autopsy, which was true, and that's how it happened. I don't. Do you buy
wow.
that, Mike? Do you buy
I'm
that theory?
not entirely sure.
You're not sure
No,
because
I
the
like that. I
guy.
like the idea of a tunnel in the back of the car.
I like that
But,
idea.
yes, no, that's a new one. I
Yeah,
certainly a different way
these
of looking.
people work quite hard on these ideas, don't they?
I guess so. I guess so. I did start watching a new kind of. I think it's a limited series on Amazon Prime the other day called The Burning Girls. And I'm only kind of a couple of episodes in, but it's pretty good. It's kind of listed under horror, and it's got it's English. It's set in Sussex, in the wilds of Sussex, and a this woman who's a vicar and her daughter kind of moved to you know a church out in the villages, and the setup before had been in this village in the 1600s, 16th century had been some girls had been burnt to death, accused. I think I think it was part of the Catholic purges of Queen Mary, rather than them being witches. Um, and the town had obviously done this, and that's kind of like a history of the town. And um and um while a modern day celebration of those girls is taking place in kind of commemoration out in the summer, in the summer, and everyone's outside the church and on the grass. Inside there's this other vicar who's basically hanging himself, and that's kind of how it starts. And then his replacement, this woman vicar, comes to take over. She doesn't know anything about any of this stuff, and her and her daughter are kind of introduced to the village. It's that classic kind of small village with strange people and lots of secrets,
Yeah.
and they both keep seeing weird things, and there's obviously a lot more going on than you're seeing, and and it's quite good. It's quite good. It's quite compelling. Not sure where it's going to go, but clearly, all this history stuff is going to kind of come to the fore. But yeah, no, it's I'm going to be interested to see where that goes. I think, yeah.
Yeah, I've never really lived in a small village. I'm kind of glad about that. You
Yeah,
used to live in a little village called Gotham.
I did. Well, it was a village, but it wasn't. It was very close to many other places, so it wasn't really.
Yeah.
Although it was a
Wasn't.
village, it was like only a
Uh,
5 minute drive into Nottingham kind of
well,
thing.
that's no
So
good, is it? It needs to be nice and remote.
yeah, I mean, yeah, and in England, it's kind of Sussex is possibly the one of the most kind of remote areas because it's out on a limb, isn't it? On the east, down southeast, and it's yeah,
Yeah,
it's it takes a long time to get there, and there are obviously cities and places there, but it always seems to me one of the more remote areas of the country. It's always
yeah.
when you hear weird stuff happening, it's always down that way. It's always they seem to have got
Oh,
a
I don't
very
know. It can be like somewhere on the
rich
Yorkshire
history of
moors or
weird
something,
things.
surely.
Yeah, I mean as well, but I mean, there's lots of weird, strange tales come out from there, and it's
Mm,
all also that's where all Matthew Hopkins, Witchfinder General, was you know running around
doing his stuff.
messing things up. Yeah.
Yeah. So we got 2024. I nearly said three coming up soon. Is there anything you're looking forward to in 2024? I haven't
Um,
prepared this, so you might just
well,
say
yeah,
no.
yeah. I mean, you're now. I mean, I'd probably in terms of media, probably the second June film. Uh,
Oh yeah.
I enjoyed the new June film. I like David Lynch's June as well, but this is pretty good. So I'm kind of looking to see that. I don't think that's out till the end of the year though. That's still probably a while away. Um,
Well, wasn't it supposed to be out like now?
I'm not sure. I think maybe, and they've held it back, or so. I
Yeah,
don't.
I think they've held it back.
I
Yeah.
don't
Yeah.
know. So maybe it'll be out earlier than I think it is. But yeah, certainly looking forward to that because I've just actually did a reread or a re-listen of June, the original novel, which I've not read in quite a few years, and yeah, thoroughly enjoyed that, and interesting reading it again, after so many years, kind of thing, because obviously you know the story pretty well because you've seen the films and read the book previously,
Mm.
but obviously as with those kind of big books, there's often bits you forget or little extra characters who don't play a big role, but are interesting and of themselves. So yeah, so I've kind of enjoyed that. So that's probably why I'm saying June 2 now. What about you? I mean the obvious thing I'm looking forward to is Necronomicon 2024
Yes.
in Providence.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's always a highlight. So what about you? Anything particular?
Oh, I don't know. Yeah. I mean, having posed the question now, I don't really have an answer, but yeah, I'd say Necronomicon. I'm looking forward to going to that. When's that? August 24.
Yeah,
So that should be fun. Um, yeah, I don't know. The year stretches ahead of us.
well, it
Who
does.
knows what it will hold? But I'll tell you what I did find.
Mm,
Ah.
wow. Now a new BBC TV series.
Yeah, I thought that was weird. So this is for listeners. I'm holding up a copy of Starsky and Hutch. Um, uh, what is it? It's a small novel, Starsky and Hutch. Yeah, and underneath it says now a new BBC TV series. I mean, it was on BBC. Well, it was. Yeah,
Yeah. So I mean, was that the original novel that kind of inspired the TV show?
a hair trigger adventure created and written by William Blinn. Ballantine Books. Copyright 1975. I don't think we get too much more information than that.
Or
Um,
maybe it's a tie-in to the when it
I
was
think it's
first
just,
released.
yeah, I mean, it's got the actors on it. So, yeah, it must be a tie in.
Got to be,
But
I suppose. Yeah.
just curious, it says a BBC TV serial. I guess that was just a way of selling it here, but it seems, I know it's
Well, I
printed in
guess
the
so. Yeah.
USA. It seems a
Yeah.
curious thing to put, but yes, yes.
Well.
And not only that, but Quatermass as well.
Oh, the Quatermass, the fourth Quatermass that was the TV serial on ITV in the UK. Yeah,
Yeah, with John
Quatermass.
Mills.
The I can't remember what the final one anyway, but yes, yes.
Yeah,
Was it
marvelous.
Ringstone Round? That's it. Yeah,
Yeah, Ringstone Round.
Space Children or whatever they're called in it.
Scared me to death. Somehow I
Oh,
managed to actually stay up and watch it because it was on. I think it was on at 9 o'clock, which was quite late for me at the time. I think it came out about 79, maybe
yeah,
80, but
no, yeah, yeah. I watched that back.
which
Watched that again a few years back, actually. Yeah, yeah. think
I
it's
mean,
Simon McCorkindale is the
yes,
radio telegraph telescope guy, I think. Yeah.
yeah, the telescope man. Yeah, yeah, I watched it a few years back as well. It's yeah, I mean, it's dated as you'd expect, but marvelous.
Oh yeah, yeah. Well,
Um,
anything Nigel Neal is always usually worth a read or a watch. So
Yeah,
yeah,
I'm looking forward
yeah.
to reading it and seeing what, because somebody told me there's like some additional stuff in there. Yeah, obviously
Right.
doesn't appear on the TV, so that'll be interesting. And it's by Nigel Neal rather than an adaptation.
Yeah.
So yeah, so that's a couple of things I've got to look forward to
Wow.
reading.
Sounds marvelous. Yeah. Very good. Very good.
Okay,
Excellent.
shall we wrap it up there? So we'll be
I
back
guess
in the
so.
new
And
year.
yeah.
We'll be back in January sometime with just an end of season wrap up. The final story, the 12th story of season 1 goes out a few days before Christmas. And yeah, we'll be back with one more extras and then we'll be taking a break. And at some point, there may be a season 2.
Well, who knows? But to make that a reality, I guess um, you know, rate us on iTunes, write a review, put a message on Facebook, and so forth, and let us know. I think we're keen to do a season 2, but if you want to let us know that that's a good thing, then please do so. It helps. Certainly, rating us on iTunes and so forth helps to kind of get the podcast out into
Hmm,
people's feeds and so forth. So if you have a minute to do that, that would be appreciated. Thank you.
indeed. Well, have a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year. And what else should they do, Mike?
Keep it Eldritch.